Hello, welcome. Hi, hello, welcome. This is the Emo Social Club podcast, and I remain and will always remain Brian.
And I'm Lizzie.
And we have two lovely guests today from the band The Safest Ledge of Youngstown, Ohio, Mason and Mike. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves so everybody knows what you all sound like?
What's up? My name's Mason. I play guitar in The Safest Ledge.
And my name is Mike. I play the other guitar in The Safest Ledge.
So who's the lead guitarist and who is the rhythm
So
guitarist?
we have a lead guitarist now, but like he's not like. So he keeps asking us too. He's like, when are we gonna like make an official announcement? I'm like, oh, we'll get to it, bro. We'll get to it. So that's our guy Reese, and then I'm rhythm guitar.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I play bass.
Okay. So I was like, wait, why do you have three guitarists? And now I'm like, oh, okay. No,
Yeah, we're
no.
like Fuzzy Grand.
Maybe
We're
they're
really
trying
heavy.
to become like one of those like post-punk instrumental bands.
Yeah, would that be like Receiving End of Sirens or
The Sounds of Animals Fighting. Like
Sound of Animals Fighting, Maylene and the Sons of Disaster?
Oh yeah, we're gonna get some Southern rock in here.
Yeah.
Oh no.
You need three guitarists to be in a
We
Southern
need
rock
more
band.
panic chords.
Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your band? I don't know, just you can do as long or as short of an intro as you want, I guess, because
Mike, do you want me to roll with it, or do you want to roll with it?
You know what? You take it.
I'm gonna take the podium. So we're like a emo, like alternative, like post-hardcore type band. I don't know, one of those type bands. We just put out a song called Mountain Eyes last month. Mike, when did that come out? May 22nd, I think.
Yeah, this month.
I think it came out May 22nd. I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah,
So we just put out a new single called Mountain Eyes last month, which is coming out on our EP, The Space Between Words, that'll be out this August. We've been a band for about like 5 years. We used to be called Noir, and that is it. I don't know if you've ever Googled the word Noir, but if you Google the word Noir, you're like you will never ever find us in a Google search.
yeah.
And our Bandcamp's still up, so you could find it if you really tried, but you're gonna go through hundreds of pages of cologne and old movies before you find it. So we were like, we got to change the name to something cool. So me and our singer Kennedy, we were chilling at Wendy's one day, Wendy's in Niles, Ohio, and he was like, bro, how about this Copeland song, which is called On the Safest Ledge? And me and him were big Copeland fans, so we were like, yeah, that's sick. So we eventually settled on that, and we've been playing shows, doing a little bit of touring, just doing our stuff in the meantime. So I guess like if you had to like narrow it down, the sounds and stuff, like when you see those like for fans of sections, I guess you'd say like Movement, Seosin, like what else would you say?
I don't know, like old TSL, you could do like
Garbage.
tight. TSL definitely, just like movements. And I heard someone say we sound like Title Fight one time, and I was like, that's not correct. I don't think
That's not correct, but like that's one of those compliments I will be like, thank you. Like one time we got compared to 3 Days Grace, and like none of us liked the compliment, but we were like, we know they mean it nicely, so like we're not gonna make a big deal out of it.
Now, did you mean old 3 Days Grace with Adam Gottner in it, or was it like the new 3 Days Grace that we don't talk about?
Oh no!
How do you know the people in 3 Days Grace?
That's the lead singer.
I mean, I don't know anyone in 3 Days Grace.
I have a really controversial opinion, all right? I firmly believe that, say, like, The Story So Far is someone, if they would have wrote I Hate Everything About You, we would have thought that was the hardest song ever. That's how good that song is.
I guess. I mean, I think that it was weird that song.
Yes, you liar.
Listen, I don't really listen to the story so far, but like what I've heard of the story so far, I'd be like, yeah, if they wrote "I Hate Everything About You," I'd be like, the song bops. But like, I could not hear that song "I Hate Everything About You" without thinking of "She Hates Me" by Puddle of Mud, and so it immediately lumped them together in my head. Is like these bands are similar because they had these songs.
Okay, it's not divergently different, but that's pretty different.
Are we strongly intimating here on the podcast that 3 Days Grace is not like butt rock or butt rock adjacent?
No, they're totally butt rock. They totally
are. 100%.
Yeah.
But like this was peak butt rock.
Right. This is like before butt rock was butt rock. Here's the thing. If you didn't sit in your room and listen to Fuse while 3 Days Grace was on and cry a little bit when you were like in middle school or early high school, don't speak to me.
Yeah. Again, that song came out while I was in college. I did not have the same experience. I'm 33, by the way, guys. So I'm...
See, we 24-year-olds, we were sitting at home watching Steven's Untitled Rock Show on Fuse. Yeah. And 3 Days Grace comes on, they got their mohawks and everything, and 8-year-old me's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna go outside and smash a bottle. And I did such. And
my mom's gonna yell at me.
Oh, my mom got mad. I'll tell you that. No, if that song was written by like a scene band, we would think it's like the hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
But they're lumped in because like, I mean, that song doesn't feel very butt rocky, but everything else they do obviously does.
Right.
So like it's guilty by association is what it is.
I saw a tweet that was like, all you white people sure do hate riots for people that used to listen to 3 Days Grace riot. And I was like, that is fairly accurate.
Somebody said the same thing about Paramore's riot too, and I was like, they're really pulling it out, and I'm gonna let them have it because it's true.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually went through a really large butt rock phase in my like adolescence. So like my when I first got into music, I was probably in like 7th grade, and I was into like classic rock and stuff because of Guitar Hero. So then I transitioned from like 8th grade. I was super into butt rock. Like Breaking Benjamin was like the best band in the world to me. 3 Days Grace, all that stuff. And then I like slowly trickled into like emo and hardcore and stuff like that. But like I will own up to it. Like my first concert ever was Nickelback. Yeah. Wait. No, this is a great story too. It was Nickelback, Hinder, Papa Roach, and Saving Abel. So this was like the most.
That's so much.
This was like the most red state rock like you've ever seen. And so when Nickelback was playing, they would talk for, I'm not even kidding you, like 10 minutes in between every song. Like they'd play a song and they'd be like, "How the fuck's everyone doing?" And then they were like, "We got this dude that toured with Pantera," and they'd show him on stage and give him the spotlight. And then they would blow shit up for like 2 minutes straight. No, I'm serious. I'm dead serious.
That's how you have to get the yeehaws attention.
Yeah, it got their attention. I'll tell you that.
Flashing lights, explosions, and how the fuck y'all doing?
Yeah, no, I swear he said, "How the fuck y'all doing?" in between every song, and there was 5 to 10 minutes of dialogue between every song, and they played at least like 15 songs.
Because that's probably the most that people know.
And then when you went to the merch table there, this was at where are you guys from?
Chicago.
Okay, so we're from we're from Youngstown, so it's in between Pittsburgh and Cleveland. And in Cleveland, like under Cleveland, is a place called Cuyahoga Falls. And they have a big venue there called Blossom Music Center, which is where they would have work and stuff. And so that's where the show is. And like merch, like on the hill, as Mike knows, there's a hill at Blossom that's notoriously epic. And when you walk up at Warped Tour, it's just awful. But that's where they had the merch at this Nickelback show. And each band only had one shirt. And this is 2008 too. So keep in mind like how cheap merch was back then. I bought a Papa Roach shirt for $35 at that show in 2008, and the Nickelback shirt was $50.
Of course it was.
Stop.
And they only had one shirt.
That's very big rockstar energy of them.
That was big. Yeah, big rockstar. Like, remember when Kellen Quinn got in trouble for charging $80 for that Polaroid picture? Like, that was like supercharged.
I like. There's a part of me that wishes I would have gone to see Nickelback at the time, and there's a part of me that's like, I'm really glad that I didn't stay like into Nickelback because I was like a
We could have
big
seen them
fan.
at Ravinia last summer, Brian. They were here. I could have probably finagled tickets from work.
Ravinia always seems to have like bands like Mumford and Sons headlining.
Yeah,
and
they
so
do.
when they have a band like Nickelback, you're like, what are you doing?
Well, Kesha was there too. I
Again,
don't know why she was there.
I
You
mean,
can't
new
put me to
Kesha.
Kesha in like a weird, like serene where they have the symphony orchestra play.
Yeah.
It's like I want to pop the fuck off the Kesha and be a goddamn fool. This
Yeah.
is not the place to
But
do
there's
it.
like moms and stuff. Just
Wine
there.
moms on the lawn.
Wine moms.
That they
You-
sprint and you'll
you-
fight other moms. I've seen it happen because I'm there before the doors open when I had to work different events there. They just sprint with their wine coolers, and then I saw people leave their whole ass children. They're like, "Stay by the tent. I gotta get. Mommy has to get the seat," and I'm like, "This is a child. I'm not watching it."
Oh, any show that's over 1,000 cap is guaranteed to have at least like a 10% attendance of white moms. It's just like
Yeah.
law.
and
It's
they
just
all
a-
dance the same.
Yeah, they do.
So, Mike, what was your first concert then? Since Mason over here is Nickelback, ride or die.
Hey, we don't need to keep bringing it up.
My first concert, I don't remember any of the bands on the lineup except for Shinedown.
Oh
Oh,
my
boy.
god!
Wait, it was at the Cavelli Center in Youngstown, wasn't it?
It was.
I was at this one too. Wait, I remember this. It was Shinedown at the Cavelli Center in Youngstown, which is our like mid-sized stadium, and it was Shinedown. I think like who was there? I don't remember. Skillet was there. Skillet back when Skillet was a huge deal.
Oh my
They
god,
had
I
that
saw
monster
Skillet
song.
up at Summerfest like God, probably 5 years ago when I was an undergrad, and literally between every song, same thing like Nickelback, but they're like Jesus, and I'm like, yo, I'm just trying to hear Monster and get out of here.
Yeah.
And see Death
Oh,
Metal
yeah.
Beauty. I need you to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, actually, you know what's a really good story is how me and Mike met. So me and Mike were working at this Italian restaurant, and so Mike, it was like Mike's second day, and he's wearing some like a Day to Remember shirt, like one of the old school ones, like cartoon ones.
Oh yeah, it was the one where it was the kid that was drawn like Mac from Foster's Home getting attacked by the crows.
Oh my god.
So Mike's like standing over there washing dishes. This is like 2012. We're both like 16. And I go over and I'm like, "Hey man, nice shirt. I like that band." And he was like, "I hate this band." And we didn't talk for like the rest of the day. And we had like a 10-hour shift.
I don't know what was going on in my brain at the time. I was just in some like severe edge.
Mike was like a diehard Black Dahlia Murder fan back then, and like, yeah, this was like you were still really heavy into death metal, so he had some very strong opinions about some bands.
Yeah, man. I pretty much just hated music.
I mean, I have a friend who's really into death metal still. Him at like newly 25. So I wonder, what are some death metal bands that you know? Maybe I know because he talks about them a lot.
Well, my top ones as of recent, I mean, I guess they're kind of like deathcore, but Shadow of Intent, they're super cool. Black Dahlia Murder, Angel Maker, they're pretty neat. Oh god,
Angel Maker.
That sounds heavy.
Yeah.
I can't think of any of them because I've just been listening to like hardcore recently. I've tried to rotate death metal out of my my playlist. I felt myself going back into that rut. I was like, no, I do music now. I can't start hating music again.
He's playing too much Doom.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
every time he does an interview, it's like, what bands do you like? I fucking hate everything. All
Hate-
right.
I don't really like music.
I'm just here for the funsies.
Just I don't know. I'm really like post music.
Music.
Jesus
That
Christ.
would
I'm really just trying to aspire to be a Pitchfork music critic. Actually, is
Dude.
really what the
Oh
vibe
my
I'm going
God.
for.
I would
Mike
end- I
really
would
wants
end the
to write
interview.
for Metal Sucks.
Yeah. That's actually like you're writing for Hard Times or for Metal Sucks or Lamb Goat. Lamb Goat writes like some like shitty articles too, don't they? I've read a lot of bad takes in Lamb Goat, but I'm not sure if they're like Lamb Goat articles or if they're like other people writing for Lamb Goat.
I'm not sure. I haven't read much Lamb Goat. I know metal sucks. Like they like a certain type of metal, and if you're not that type of metal, they just meme you to death.
Yeah.
I know
Metal
that there
magazines are
was-
awful.
There
They're different.
was some like obscure site. I don't remember what it was, but it had punk in it, which doesn't help narrow it down. And they were trashing. Oh, we interviewed this band called Proper, and I had found them because they had first I got a press release, so I found out about them, and then I like followed them on Twitter, and they retweeted how like this music reviewer was like not retracting false statements, and they had like misgendered one of their bandmates, and the response to it was just like, well, if it's a bad take, it's a bad take. Like, I'm not gonna edit anything just because you guys can't get your shit together. I'm like,
Oh my!
they really just let anyone be a fucking music writer nowadays. Damn.
Jeez.
It's about having content. The content doesn't have to be good or
Oh my
appropriate
God.
or useful or bring anything for anybody. So you guys have toured. Where have you like toured mostly Midwest, or have you gone like?
We've mostly been in the Midwest. We really just started like the tour like last year. What's cool about like Youngstown specifically is like we're around so many big markets. Like I mean, like big compared to Youngstown. Like because we're like an hour between Cleveland and Pittsburgh, and then we can go up to Buffalo easy. Rochester, Erie's a smaller market, but they have a tight music scene there. Detroit, Columbus, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Louisville. It's really cool in the Midwest because like geographically where we're at, like we could hit a lot of markets really easily.
Yeah.
I know like obviously being on like, up in like New England or, certain parts of Cali, like must be real nice for touring too. But, I think we're pretty lucky where we're at, to be honest.
Yeah. Honestly, we've been able to like just in our small tri-state area, pretty much like we can hit a lot of places that we could do like week-long routes or something, like hitting 3 or 4 stops in these states just because we're so dense with all these like bigger music scenes around us.
I tell you, when you really branch out into different markets too, like you really see like how different each music scene is from like one city to another. Like Youngstown's a small city and like there's a lot of great bands here, but like where our like type of music is not really popular here. I mean, not really not popular, but there's not a lot of bands like us here. It's a lot of like indie rock bands and bar rock bands and like a couple of heavy bands. So like branching out to like find more bands like us. When you go out to like Buffalo, there's a lot of cool bands and like our emo punk like community. Erie, there's a smaller market too, but there's a lot of really good bands there. That's where our management's from. That's a lot of bands on our management are from. Indianapolis has really cool bands. Cleveland has a lot of really good bands. Columbus has a couple cool bands that we know of. There's more, but we don't know a ton of them there. But you just see music scene to music scene, how different everything is. One we were really impressed by, like incredibly impressed by, was in Fredonia, New York, at the North Pole Strip Club, which is it's a house venue, but they call it that.
That's
and
awesome.
This was one of the cool. This was like one of the coolest venues we've ever played because a lot of house venues do it like no drinking, things like that. Like a lot of them are straight edge run, which those venues are awesome too. But we played a lot of venues like that. But at this one in particularly, it's a college town, so people are drinking there and everything. They're basically throwing a party. So naturally you just get a lot of people there because you're throwing a party and everything. And we're down in this little basement and there's 100 people crammed in this little basement. And when you're playing a show, like in between sets, like people scatter out, they go outside, they go out to smoke, go up to drink or something like that. But there was 100 people and they just stayed down there the entire time. Like we were really impressed, like how like tight knit that music scene was.
Yeah, it's really crazy out there how like receptive the community is to new music and like other bands coming out, because like we've played a lot of places where we'll be like second on the bill coming in a room will just clear and we're like, sick, this is a great
it's the nature of low level touring. It just is. especially for bands like us, like DIY is such a blessing because, there's, places we go to that, there really isn't a venue outside of, all these DIY venues. Akron, Toledo, places like that have really, really strong DIY communities. I mean, they make touring possible for small bands like us. And, we could sit here and count off all day, like all the bands that like started off, like playing all these DIY venues and everything. So really having that community and like how like tight knit we see from city to city it is and everything. It's just really cool because I don't know, it just helps the dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are some of like your
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to know what are some of your kind of like favorite bands that you've either encountered or listened to that are in kind of like your area that you've been able to kind of hit around pretty frequently?
So like bands we played with, like
other bands you played with, or like bands that you really like that are in that kind of area?
Okay. Mike, how about you go first on this one?
I'm gonna do the Standbys number one because they are absolutely fucking fantastic, incredibly talented, nice boys.
Nice boys.
The Ruling in our hometown, they're they're taking the new age aspect of spoken word, like the movements direction. They're super sick. Boys Yuri, love them. They're also from Youngstown.
Can't forget Carpool.
Oh, Carpool, man, they're from New York. Absolutely, like one of my favorite bands. The nicest people I've ever met. They play some mean tunes.
Oh man, the Carpool was some really funny guys. We really like Carpool. They just put out a new record. They got that Salty song on it, and man, they're really great. So Carpool is definitely like a real big one. There's this band Fernway from Buffalo, New York, that I'm just like obsessed with. They're real tight with like a lot of those bands, and I know their guitar player Brett from like a Spotify group we're in. The Standby is a big one for us, for all of us in our band, and they're on our management as well. Cerulean, Yuri, Elbow Room from Cleveland's really great. Black Swan from Columbus.
Oh,
This band is different. I encourage anybody to check out Black Swan from Columbus. Think of like Sworn In meets think of like a hype beast Sworn In. That's the vibe. No, it's really cool. They're such a great band.
Yeah, they're really cool too, and they're like Sworn In with a little dash of Rage Against the Machine, and they're all wearing Supreme.
Yeah,
and
they're all wearing Supreme. They all got the videos and everything.
God.
Like they got the image down perfect.
What?
they're all real cool. There's we'll send it to you guys later. It's this video of the singer like stomping on the American flag and stuff during a show we played with them, and then our photographer was like taking a video of it, and he immediately after that he zooms over to this mom and her kid, and they're like the look on their face, I can't even describe it to you. I just have to send it to you. It's like have you ever seen that painting of it's the thing, it looks like they're in Kansas or something, and it's going like it looks really shocked. And it's kind of wavy.
Screen face?
Yeah, that's it. They like had the screen face.
Karen, that was the beginning of the revolution.
Yeah, that was where the first Karen was born.
First Karen.
So, those definitely like the bands for us. I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody, but
one more Grievance Club.
Oh, the Grievance Club from they're from Lakewood now, but or Kent. I don't know, but their guitar player Steve produces all our records, so he's a great guy, and his band's fantastic.
I like their name.
Yeah.
Do you feel? Because I mean, I used to be in bands, and none of them went anywhere, and that's why I have a podcast now. But Lizzie doesn't have that excuse. I have the excuse of.
I'm sorry, I don't have any musical talent. That's why I went into the business side of it.
Yeah. So Lizzie has her entire future ahead of her, and I have multiple failed bands, and here I am with my podcast. But so one thing about being in Chicago is that like it is such a huge market, and there's constantly something going on. Not right now so much, but normal time, normal situation. There's so much going on, different shows across the city, different genres, different whatever. And I feel like when you're in such a big market, it's very hard to break through. Like, do you feel that like coming up in I don't want to say it's a small town because I don't know how big Youngstown is, but like assuming that you're nearby like larger cities and larger markets and having that sort of like smaller town feel and able to go to those larger markets, do you feel like that is more of a benefit for a band?
That's a loaded question. I'll get my piece on it. So it's we're kind of like a special case because we're a small market that's in between two big markets.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, like there's a lot of variety to find like an audience for your band. But like I think being from a small market is a disadvantage because especially like in earlier stages of this band where you're playing like ticket sale shows or things like that, it helps to be from that bigger market and have people that live close to those places to sell those tickets to and shows and things such as that. I think there's more perks of being from a bigger market, but that's from like our perspective because like it's just another thing too is in bigger markets there's usually just bigger music scenes to put it frank. In Youngstown there's basically two music venues, so there's just not, I mean there's been more in the past, but there hasn't always been a lot of opportunity. We can dominate our market and be like the biggest band of our genre in our city, but I think there's more perks of being from a big market. What do you think, Mike?
I have to agree with you on it having its disadvantages because being in this small market, when we are like reaching out to play those ticket sale shows and they want us to push for them, but they put locals on it that are close, we feel very like distraught going into it because how are we going to compete with someone that lives in that city?
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. But like, if we're competing with those bands, it's pretty much going to be impossible. So
not always. It's different because we're really good at selling tickets. Like for bands, we're really good, but some bands aren't, to be frank, because some bands are just really introverted people. You know what I mean? You can't help that sometimes. I think we've all learned to be super pushy, and that's why we've gotten results. But some bands, aren't that way because that's just not their personalities.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much was forced through this band to get over social anxiety. And I'm now I work in the public, which is insane to me because I used to just work food service. I'd be like, yeah, that's cool. But being in this and wanting to push hard enough to get these people from our market or other markets to try and like actually come see us made me not so much extroverted, but I can like really say that I'm pushing to get past all of it to make sure people in our own city come and see the band.
Hey Mike, I'm sorry I talked over you. My bad.
We've learned through all of these Zoom calls that like it's just so hard to have like a normal conversation the same way you would in a room without like that like the time between Zoom stuff. I'm like, you know what? Everybody's just doing their best. So I'm sorry if I talk over you guys too.
No, you're fine. If it was all five of us, I think you would have hit end call by now.
Yeah. We wouldn't have far.
We usually are like an interview with like 5 people is just not going to be conducive to like enjoy. Like I used to listen to AP podcasts like when they did like interviews with bands and they'd have like a full band on, and if it's a band of people that like all talk, you're like I this is unlistenable. Like I'm just hearing a bunch of voices and I don't know whose opinion I'm hearing. I don't know why you had all these people here. So like I'm thankful that you guys are the two people instead of 5 people, but
yeah. I once interviewed a band that was like, it wasn't ska, but it was basically like dad rock ska is the best way to put it. And there was literally 9 people in the band, and they all came to interview, and they were all dudes. And my 2 co-hosts at the time were dudes, so it was just me sitting there like, all right, well, No one really has a diverse voice here other than me. The rest of you guys just sound like dudes.
Yeah.
So, be real with me. How do y'all feel about ska?
I like ska.
Dude, I love it. I'm not gonna lie. I have like a secret, like little 311 love affair, and I know that's not ska, but because of that, I like anything that just has those little reggae chords. So I'm not gonna lie. I like ska.
When I saw Post Animal, God, probably 10 times I've seen them. When I saw them at Lollapalooza here, and it was in a big dirt pit. We were covering dirt head to toe, and I started skanking in a pit with like 3 other people. My friends are like, "What the fuck are you doing? This is not the music." I'm like, "It's the music now."
It is the music.
So is it cool if I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
So like oh god, I don't even know if this will come out as a question. But like since you guys are like the 3rd biggest market in I almost said the world, but the US, like you guys have a lot of stuff. Like you guys get Riot Fest, you guys get Lollapalooza, back and Warped Tour is a thing, obviously you got Warped Tour, all these things. And I'm sure you guys just have an enormous amount of bands and quite a big of diversity with bands. Like, do you think it's more, Brian, especially as somebody that has been in a band, do you think it's more like, like competitive being up there? Like when you just, you're trying to dominate your music scene, but you're, in a gigantic city with a million other bands.
Yeah. So like we were saying before, like when you're into death metal, you start to hate music in general. You start to hate everything. I have this thing where I'm at a show, like maybe my friend is playing the show or whatever, and I'm watching the opening bands, and I'm like, I fucking hate bands. Like bands are stupid as fuck to me because like there's just so many of them. And I'm speaking specifically about being in a city with like a ton of bands. I'm like, man, there doesn't need to be this many fucking bands. Like And now I'm old, so of course there's also that. Like all these kids in these bands need to get off my lawn. But like seeing like newer bands coming up, like playing maybe their first or second or third show, it's always like, okay, but why? And I understand like everybody has to have that dream, and I'm already like past my dream, so I'm jaded. I think.
I'm sorry. Keep going.
I just think that like, in general, the fact that there are so many bands in a large market dilutes how much bands are getting from the market. Like if everybody's fighting over the same piece of pie and some people are fine with like getting a very, very small sliver, then it like makes every other band forced to get a small sliver of it. Whereas if we maybe had like a little bit more of like a high bar because we were holding certain people to a certain standard, I don't know what that is, and I'm not coming up with any answers because I hate ticket shows, I hate like all that shit, but like I want it to be like more cutthroat, I guess, so that like the bands that work hard get something.
I'm really glad you pointed that out because to be blunt, like when you play with a lot of bands, we've been lucky, like we've been touring with a lot of great bands. But like sometimes you play with bands that you like straight up are just like, okay, like these people aren't trying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they're not trying very hard or things like that. And I think that is, in my opinion, I think that's something that dilutes local music scenes a lot because, there's just, to be blunt, like not every band is going to try as hard as the next one. When it becomes a stage performance, writing songs, just overall everything, image, all those things. And me personally, I'm really picky about like if I want to go to a show or not. Like, now, I mean, I'm dying to go to any show. But like, sometimes like, if I'm gonna go see 4 bands, I really want to make sure I'm having a good time watching the music. And I think, especially when it comes to local music scenes, I think a huge like hindrance to it is just like you get a lot of bands that just aren't really trying really hard. And it's okay if your goal is not to tour and be the biggest band in the world. That's fine. But it's to my perspective as somebody that plays a lot of shows and has to watch a lot of bands, like when I see a band that's like really good, like I really appreciate it.
I think the issue here, at least in Chicago, is because like it is oversaturated. And for probably like 5 to 6 years, like indie rock was like the main like genre outlet. So you
Uh-huh.
saw a lot of like indie bands pop up. You saw like, the half-ass. Like I originally started in like working in the indie music scene here. And you also learn that there's a level of pretentiousness that comes with it just because it's, they just think that they're inherently better. If you try to talk to like an indie band and you're like, oh, my favorite band's Fall Out Boy, they're like, oh, you must not know music then. And I've been told that multiple times, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but like you sound like literally 6 other bands that are in the psych rock genre here. So I don't want to
Oh
hear shit
boy.
about that.
Is your
But
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh no, but it's like that. So just pop punk and emo as a genre here in Chicago has only started to kind of come back and be more popular and more accepted within the last probably like 2 or 3 years, where it's been really been like popping off big time and been more supported. I mean, we have like Beach Bunny. I love Beach Bunny, but she doesn't really identify herself as an emo genre, even
Mhm.
though she's like, oh, I'm writing
Mhm.
sad songs, which obviously shouldn't pigeonhole you within that genre, but she always pretty much is like, oh, I'm like indie rock. Which,
Yeah.
if you listen to her music, it's it's that in the same vein, but it's also emo. It's like emo sad pop if you want to get more technical. But there's still a lot of this resistance to wanting to be labeled as that or even pop punk, because I know a lot of my colleagues and friends sometimes in like the indie rock genre will be like, can you believe that people are like in their 20s and still listening to like pop punk like unironically? And I'm like, I gotta go.
No, totally. I mean, kind of become a dirty word. I was going to ask you guys, like, like is Chicago like the pop punk hotbed? Because it seems that way from an outsider. Because there's like Real Friends, Knucklepuck, Belmont, obviously Fall Out Boy, but that doesn't really count anymore.
They're everywhere
Um,
now.
so like that's something I was going to ask. I'd say, but no, you're kind of right though. It's kind of become like a dirty word, and like I think another thing, like I guess like on our end of the musical spectrum, is like sometimes like you want to avoid being called post-hardcore, because you can get pigeonholed as like a million different things. Or people would just take it as metalcore or stuff like that. But like you also like this is also like I guess like for a band our size, it's always kind of a never-ending identity crisis, because you want to find your specific audience, which for us, I mean, to be blunt, it's like bands like Movements or things like that. But some bands are like like want to branch out and just say like, yo, I'm just alternative rock. You know what I mean? Especially like probably like bands that want to get on the radio or things like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I work in radio, so I definitely understand when people are like, "Oh, let me give you your music." I'm like, first of all, I'm not gonna do that. Second of all, that is way above me. They are not going to listen to me.
Guys, I'm
Third of all, why are we talking? Um,
gonna
but that's always what I tell people though, is like, if you wanted to do that, you have to start to shift gears, which sucks because that's like the whole selling out thing. But isn't it at the end of the day for a lot of bands like, oh, I want to make some type of substantial income from this?
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a conversation we've had a lot lately. Mike can vouch for this. Is like, how do we get this to like a point where we're living off this and we can quit our jobs? I'll be right back. I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool. I'll carry on from that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, the aspect of making money off low level touring and like us realistically looking at it, like, will we one day be able to quit our jobs when we're touring 6 months out of the year, when we're just grinding to be able to survive? Like, I don't know, it seems almost like a pipe dream at this point in like 2020 to be able to dig up from this like small niche market to be able to actually make a livable wage off of it. And like, I would like to stay optimistic and say, oh, fuck yeah, we're definitely going to make money off of it one day. But everything we make, we just throw right back into the band. Like, we all have a band bank account that we just pay. Like, we paid for the van with it and like all of our merch and stuff. So we just kind of do it for the fun of it, with hopefully one day being able to make money.
I would like to quit my job.
Yeah.
I tell my boss all the time. I'm like, like if they ask me like how my band stuff's going, I'm like, I was like, if it was doing better, I won't be here. No, I'm just kidding.
That's good though. That is like the realistic way to think of it. Like I learned real quick, like, yo, you're never going to make a ton of money if you want to be in a band, first of all, and then also doing it from the ground up as its own independent business, as an independent whatever. It's just going to be so much harder that like your expectations need to match what you are going to work for. Like, I want to be in a band that pays my bills and I get to do what I love for a job and everything is fine. I was like, that is bottom line, like a great situation to be in. And it's like, if anything else happens above that, fantastic. But if I'm just at that, like, thumbs up. And now I have a podcast.
It's really unclear, like, at least from our end looking outside, like it's really unclear, like, what point do you hit to like where you're making that kind of money? You know what I mean? Because, you know, you can crunch numbers from like where we stand now and compare it, like what would it look like if we were at that level and things like that. And it's just like super hard to gauge, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's impossible.
I'd like to point out that I think it's crazy how much of a business a band is. Like when we first started, we're like, oh wow, this is so much fun playing music. And then 2 years later, like, okay, we really got to start like doing some shit.
Well,
like,
yeah, we hit this point. We've had a couple conversations like this, but I remember the first time we had this conversation, we were like, hey, we don't want to just be a big local band. Like, we want to tour. And then, you know, we start touring, we buy a van, all these things. And we're like, okay, we want to live off of this. And, you know, I like, I mean, being a band, I mean, people say this all the time, but I don't think like it really registers in everyone's mind. Is, I mean, like, it's basically your second job, you know? Like, I mean, I'm doing stuff with the band like a couple hours every day. You know, it's a lot of work in the long run. I mean, it's fun. You know, I think you just have to you have to get yourself in that kind of zone where you're just kind of addicted to the results.
Yeah.
You know, and like it's just like, you know, it's instant serotonin when I wake up in the morning and look at Spotify numbers. You know what I mean? Like, it's somebody, our buddy, like because we have like our band's like 5 people, but like we have like a big like team, like, you know, when it comes to management or like people outside of the band that help do stuff. And I was talking to somebody in it, and they were like, you gotta like stop like chasing the rush there. And I'm like, because you're gonna get let down by it at some point. And I'm like, yeah, but like that's the fun of it, you know what I mean? Like, I know like this isn't always permanent, you know what I mean?
Yeah, this is the equivalent of buying scratch off cards right now.
It really is. But like, I think like the cool thing about the industry now, like the unpredictability of it is like, say you got on like a Spotify editorial playlist, like you're bumping your monthly listeners by like 10,000. And, you know, all of a sudden your band looks like a lot different. And then say you're on a couple of those and, you know, might bump by like 15,000 or something like that. You get all these new listeners. You know, it's a big unpredictability in our industry right now, but I think the goal and the path to get there is probably the clearest it's ever been. Because like 5 years ago, like, I mean, when we were starting this, I mean, we had no clue what we had to do to get to what point. You know, all we knew was like, oh, you got to get a label, and then the label does everything for you. That was our thinking.
Yeah. I hope you guys have realized that that's not the case.
No, I mean, we know a lot of bands on labels that like are in similar positions or in like, you know, other positions that are not so great. I think it's just easy to be like, oh, bro, this band, every band that gets on Fearless Records just blows up, you know, like things like that. And you're like, wow, what if I just got on that? But, you know, music industry is a harsh reality. But I think sometimes like us as people as a band, we just focus too much like on the bad things. And like, really, I mean, like, this is the most fun like we've ever had doing stuff. You know, it's like I was saying, I mean, like, it's really gratifying to wake up in the morning and just like look at numbers and stuff, because like it makes you feel good, you know. And you know, I mean, just like playing shows even when it's dinky, I mean, like, you know, I'll be able to talk about this for the rest of my life, you know. it's even if it doesn't amount to anything, like I'm still having a great time. And I was talking about this with a couple other people in our band, and it's like when you're like a person that creates, like any kind of art or things like that, like it's different. Like it is, it mostly is unhappiness because it's a lot of why isn't this doing better? Things like this should be doing better. Feeling like you're better than other people at this and things like that. But like, people that like aren't doing the same thing like don't always understand that, because it's like you're always going to have that yearn to keep making stuff and to have it be successful. I mean, it consumes my life, but like that's the fun of it. You know what I mean? You have to embrace the madness. Something we always say is nothing ever works out for us unless it's completely fucked up. So
Yeah, that's true. Nothing ever works out in this band. Something has to get fucked up every step of the way, but then it goes off exponentially in the end always. We're like, how did we get here?
Nothing is ever smooth sailing, and that's the fun of it, like it's chaos is something that we need to embrace sometimes.
That's how I live. I only know chaos.
Exactly.
That's how I live my life. I was raised in the chaos. I continue to live in it. But what is the most fucked up thing that has happened to you guys? Whether it paid off to be really good or just it was a shit show.
Mike, I think I should tell this one because I was physically present for it. So
yeah.
We'll get to Mike's point of view. So we were very stupid for a long time, and we loved to just set money on fire. And we were like, let's just rent a van for touring, so we don't have to buy a van. Little did I understand that renting a van for 6 days was the equivalent of buying one. So I was like, I don't care, I'll blow money. So we would rent a van from Enterprise, and we had a little code that helped us before, and long story short, we didn't have it anymore. So like everyone in this band is under 25 except our singer, but at the time he was 24. So in Pennsylvania, where Youngstown borders, you have to be 25 to rent that kind of vehicle. So we had rented there before, stuff. And so we go and get the van, and we had already made the reservation and everything too. And we go and they're like, hey man, you can't rent this. Like none of you are over 25. And we're like, why'd you let me make the reservation? And they were like, I don't know. They shouldn't have let you do that. And the manager came and she was like, I can't do anything. And I was like, I just got silent for a second. And I'm like recalling this from what everyone else has told me.
Did you black out? Do you have a memory lapse?
I got really angry. So our singer and our drummer just told me that I yelled, "This is a crisis." And to me, it sounded like I was just saying it kind of like out there, but they said I like screamed it. So I don't recall this at all. And so like she's just looking at me like dead in her eyes. She's like, can't do anything. And I was like, well, can you get us like a minivan or something? And she was like, no, I've looked for minivans this week everywhere from like Pennsylvania to Indiana, which is like 500-mile distance. Yeah. And like we found a minivan like a half an hour later, like like a half an hour later, like 5 miles from my house. So I mean, so we call up Mike. And we're like, hey, problem. And I can't remember if he guessed it or not. I think Joey might have. But one of them guessed where they were like, you didn't get the van. And we were like, no, you didn't get it. And we explained it. And Mike was saying, he was like, we just got to cancel the dates. We can't go. And we're all hanging out in my driveway. And eventually we decide, we're like, all right, we're just going to take our singer's Chevy S10 and my Honda Accord, and we're going to pack all 5 of us in there, us and a photographer and all our gear. So in my back seat, Mike, you sat in there, so you could probably describe it better, like how packed it was. But like there was enough room for maybe half a person.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. We had to cram so much. I mean, we had half a drum set, Mason's rack, my head. God, we had like merch back there. All of our like clothes and stuff. and then our photographer.
And like this was like our book bags were like sitting under our feet, like in the seats and everything. Like it could not have been more packed. Like we forgot how to pack the cars after the first show, and we were like, "Oh crap, how do we do this?" And it took us like an hour to pack the car again. But so here, Mike, you want to roll through what was happening when we were packing the cars for that?
Oh yeah, so they get back, we're trying to figure everything out, and we're like, all right, we're just gonna take the cars. Mason's neighbor across the street, I don't know what happened, but he was just over on the ground. So Mason was like, all right, I'm going to be a good Samaritan. I'm going to go help my neighbor up.
Well, we're forgetting here. We heard this thump. Like it sounded like a boulder like was dropped on my driveway.
Yeah.
So we hear this thump. So I go over and he's just like laying on the ground and he fell. And like our drummer comes over and we get him inside the house. And I was like, hey, call your wife. And he was like, okay. And he pushes the phone away. I was like, motherfucker, call your wife. And so we call like 911 and everything. They take them, and but as Michael pointed out, I went over and I knew the firemen, and I go and I dap them up, and like they're all like in the driveway laughing at me because they were like, "What the fuck?" Because they didn't know I know them. They were like, "What the fuck is going on?"
I thought Mason was trying to be like, "Yo, bro, thanks for coming. You really helped. We gotta go."
Thanks for coming to the show. You want to buy some merch? Yeah. And they thought I was just like dapping up the whole fire department or something.
I be close with them.
Yeah, so we eventually did that run all in cars, and it was, oh man, it was cramped. I'll tell you that.
It was a nightmare. Honestly, like I had so much fun, but I would never in a million years do that again. I'd rather tour in cars again.
It was honestly, I don't think you've truly toured until you've toured in cars. Our van setup now is pretty awesome because we have a bunch of bunks, but like we've toured in rentals a bunch. So like we've slept on like benches and stuff like that. And I'll tell you now, like, you know, we will not sleep on benches again. The setup we have now, we're putting in every van we have till this band is done.
Honestly, until the end of the time, I'll start buying vans for myself to put the setup in.
Yeah, just so we can all come and sleep in.
I did a couple shit. Well, I'm in the cover band scene now. Well, I was in the cover band scene before we couldn't play shows, but so we did a couple shows in just a caravan of cars, or like, oh, we'll meet you in Iowa, like just whenever you can make it to the show. Just get in your car and get there. And then one time we were like going to rent a minivan to drive out to. It was just two shows. It was one was in Cincinnati and the other was in Indianapolis at two bars. Oh shit! What was the name of those bars? They were shitty. They were fine. The people there were super nice to us, but we're like, what are we doing here? And they didn't have any minivans, and they were like, oh, you can have this SUV. And they're like, all right, well, do you have anything else? And they're like, this is the biggest vehicle we currently have that we can give you. And it was like an Escalade, but fitting like drum kit, two heads, bass amp, all this stuff in there. And then like five dudes. It's like fitting in all the seats. Lizzie, you know Bodie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bodie is he's a small boy. He's a
small boy.
He's short, but he's thick. He's just like buff. He's just like sitting in the middle, and he was like, guys, this like really sucks. We're like, yep, let's just drive fast. Just get there, get it over with. This is not the expectation that we had going into this weekend. We also had like a guest drummer playing with us for the weekend, and we were.
Was that annoying one?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I remember this.
Guys, I want you guys might appreciate this story because I love telling this story. We're driving from Indianapolis back to Chicago because it's like a 3-hour drive. The show ended, and we're like, fuck it, we're going home. He looked out the window. He just like talked a lot. He just constantly saying words, and like he wasn't playing drums well. And some of the words he would say would just be awful words, like just stupid shit that he was saying out of his mouth the whole time. And we're just like fed up. We're all tired. Like nobody knew him well enough to be like, dude, shut up. Like just just relax for a little while.
Yeah.
He looks out the window and he goes, "Oh my God, guys, the moon." And that was like the end of it for me. And I started like, I didn't want to say anything out loud, but I started group texting everybody else in the car. It's like, did this motherfucker just explain the moon to all of us? Did this human man thought that all of us in our adulthood had never seen the fucking moon before. And he's like, "Oh, let me explain what this thing in the sky looks like." I was like, I'm fed up. And like everybody's trying not to laugh. I'm like fuming in the front seat. And everybody else is like, "Oh my God, dude, like, please stop. I cannot stop laughing. He's gonna know something is up. Like, please just drop it." I'm like, "No, this is it. This is the last straw." He said way worse shit than that, but it was like, nope, it's like, we are stuck in this car. It is full. It is packed to the brim. I'm like, I am done with this man. Yeah. So don't ever explain the moon to anybody, I guess, while you're on tour.
Mind. Yeah, we were very picky about who we bring on tour with us.
Yeah. I mean, when you get into like the cover band scene, then it's like, no, you're playing the show. I don't care who shows up to it. Like in original bands, I feel like the people who show up are part of it, and we were trying to bring like that same aspect into these shows. But like when you're like, "Oh, our drummer is injured, he can't make it." Well, we have these 2 shows booked. There's money on the line. Like, we have to go and play these shows. And it's just like, yeah, I would have paid money to not play these shows. I would have paid money to not have to drive that long with this man. Oh my God. We went to fucking IHOP for breakfast in Cincinnati. And we're like, right before we left, we're like, all right, let's just get some breakfast at IHOP. And he's like looking through the menu and he goes, "Oh, what's this like Thanksgiving dinner thing on here?" And the waiter's like, "Oh, it's like turkey, like, it's like gravy and mashed potatoes and all that." It's like 10 in the morning. And he's like, "Yeah, you know what? That sounds good. I'll take that."
Oh my God.
And I thought he was joking. I thought he's like, just like, "Why the hell do you have this Thanksgiving dinner on your menu?" And then he full on ordered it and then full on ate it. And then hours later was like, "Guys, I am really not feeling well." And I'm like, it was like all of the worst choices you could make while riding in this car and ordering food and on tour. Like, we're out for like a day, and it's like, this is the worst experience I've ever had.
Oh man.
So I can imagine it's also like, if you're around the people you care about and you like and that you spend all this time with, you're at least like, okay, hey man, don't get that to eat.
You'd be like, don't be a fucking idiot and do that. Thank you.
I think we all get along really good on tour. Honestly, probably better than we do like normally. I will say though, and I bring it up to everybody, but Mike needs to be shamed for it. Mike needs to buy a CPAP, and I'm gonna buy him one if I have to, because Mike has the most violent snoring I've ever heard.
Violent snoring. That's quite a description.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. I really thought you were going to out me for being a 100 Gex fan. I didn't think this.
No, we
even
love
worse.
100 Gex in this house. Maybe not Brian, but I do.
There's so many bands where I'm like, what is
He doesn't
this
know these
name? And
bands.
is this a band? Is
Oh,
this an
please
art
look up
project?
100 Gex.
Brian, 100 Gex is like the new scene music. Like
Yeah.
Broken Side, 100 Gex, but better than Broken Side.
Mike plays it all the time, and he tries to say it ironically because he knows we'll shame him for it.
There's no irony there. Pure love.
What's the song where it's like, you got such a baby, such a small truck? What is that? He plays that one a lot. Honestly, I almost kind of like it at this point because I've heard it so much.
I didn't realize they're from Chicago. One of my friends at work was like, "I think you would really like this band," because I listened to it and I just thought of you immediately. And they turned it on. I'm like, "You thought I was a scene queen in my past life?"
Are you gonna play that on the radio now?
No, I mean, I wish I could,
hour?
but I'm pretty sure there's some FCC rules and regulations.
Yeah. If not, we should start them. I'm interested in this band now. I have to listen to them, and if I hate
You're
it,
gonna
knowing
have
that
to.
they're here, I
You're
can
gonna have to
find
blast
them.
it.
You're gonna
So-
hate it, and you're gonna get like violently angry. So like, don't blame us for it. The universe wanted you to hear it.
He's gonna angrily text me in our Discord and be like, "What the fuck is this?"
What is this nonsense? What have you done? What has music become?
Listen, we're not turning up death grips here, at least.
Oh,
Death Grips is
I
fine.
love Death Grips.
Yeah.
I love it too.
I do not like the Death Grips. It is just not. It is too much for me. It's too much going on at once.
I was once seeing a dude and he said like, "Oh, me and my best friend listened to Death Grips," and he didn't listen. He had listened to like old like 80s music, which I was like, it's fucking weird. But he was like, "Oh, me and my friend put on Death Grips, get like super hyped up." I'm like, "Are you all right?" Like, I don't know anyone who really does that, like, and doesn't listen like to an adjacent genre to Death Grips and just listens to it to get hyped and then turns on like fucking Toto in the background. Like, I'm dead ass serious. We were seeing each other once, like the Africa meme was huge and like, you know, it was just starting to come up. So I was like, oh yeah, like Africa by Toto, like it hits, like completely joking. And he puts on their entire fucking discography
Oh no.
to try to like set the mood. I'm like, this is not what I was going for. Like, this is absolutely nothing I fucking wanted nor asked for. Don't know why you thought that was, but it's completely wrong.
Have you heard Africa by Toto? But the vocals are a half step down, and it's like two beats off time.
No.
It's on YouTube. I'll send it to you guys. It is insane. It like gives me a migraine when I listen to it.
That's the same. Have you seen the System of a Down one? I think it's Chop Suey, but the vocals are beat off.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that one's bad too.
They're fury inducing. Our one friend who's in the chat right now, Courtney, said that Africa is the best song ever, which I kind of agree with.
Listen, I'm not denying it. I'm just saying, like, you just don't take that meme and then think, you know what I'm gonna do to impress somebody? The entire Toto discography.
Okay,
yeah. Do you know another Toto song?
Rosanna.
What? You know one?
Toe the Line.
I was thinking of like, there's one that's a chick's
Hold the
name.
Line.
It's
Yeah.
not Roxanne.
I don't know any. I only know Africa.
I mean, again, I'm like
It's
1,000 years
the most important
old.
one to know.
Yeah, it's the Weezer cover. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
because didn't they
Scrub.
do Rosanna as a cover? Because they were like, everybody was like, Weezer, you got to do this Africa cover, and they're like, fine, we're gonna cover Toto, and then they put out Rosanna as a cover.
Oh,
It's like just to fuck with everybody.
no, what's a great Weezer cover is No Scrubs by TLC.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
It is.
I came into
better
work
than-
and my coworker was playing. He's like, "This is awful." I'm like, "What are you talking about? We are playing this right now."
Oh my god, it is so good. I love Weezer.
Courtney's reminding me that we were born in the 80s, so that
I mean,
that would
we
do it.
weren't.
Courtney and I went to high school together, so we are exact same age, and she was also listing off Toto songs in the chat. So to give you an idea of how these 80s kids get down with Toto.
Oh,
I also think it's like those commercials that happen like late at night, and they were like, "Oh, here's this like collection of greatest hits from the '80s," and it's like just Toto for like 30 seconds. And I'm like, "Yeah, all right, I know that song now."
That one.
Yeah,
I rock with some 80s songs. Easy Lover by Philip Bailey and Phil Collins. That's pop right there. That's a really good. What's that one song with Michael Jackson and the other guy where it's like, I always feel like somebody's
That's shit, what's his name? What's that guy's name?
He was like the president of Motown's son.
Yeah.
And he like couldn't sing at all, but like he got a record deal anyway.
You know,
He only
when
had
you're the
one
president,
song.
when you're the son of the president of any music industry, you get whatever you want, whether you're good or not.
His name is Rockwell.
That's
he
that's
rocked
it.
well.
Well.
I do want to talking about your music. I wanted to talk about your two music videos because that was Actually, one of the reasons we took a notice of you when we got an email in our inbox was because you filmed 2 music videos. I watched them; they're awesome, and the
Thank
songs
you.
are great too. So
It does give me big like old school Hawthorne Heights vibes, and
Yeah.
I'm a big Hawthorne Heights person. So I was like,
All right.
I fuck with it.
We played a show with them years ago. They're great, but so thank you for that. We appreciate that.
I guess that is Ohio, right? I was gonna every time we interview a band that's not from Chicago, I'm like, so do you know all of these bands from that state personally? And I'm like, I don't know anybody from Chicago, so like, why would I ask that from anybody else?
It's cool because when you're from Ohio, Ohio metalcore is like such a legend here. Like Attack, Devil Wears Prada.
Mhm.
I don't like this band, but Miss May I. Like they're like Ohio metalcore is just like the thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Foxy Shazam. Foxy Shazam.
That bass. I never fucked with Foxy Shazam
Dude,
either.
fuck
They were
with
huge
Foxy
in my high
Shazam.
school, but it just went over my head. I was never one of the indie kids. I never got a Neutral Milk.
No,
Hotel either.
their first album was like straight up like artsy grindcore. It was fucked up, and then they put out like piano like hardcore sort of like punky sounding stuff, and then it was like just straight up like art pop like rock music. But I've also that's like one of the most violent pits I've ever been in because the singer at the beginning of their set jumped onto the audience and kicked me right in the forehead.
Oh,
After
for you.
singing an a cappella song. I'm like, fuck it, we're going off.
are you
Love
sure
that
you
for
weren't
you.
at a Pentatonics concert?
Yeah, I am. Listen, it'd be the most violent pentatonic show of all time.
Oh my god,
them
that was
and-
me trying to start pits during the Jonas Brothers shows. All 3 of them I went to in Chicago, and
Oh,
it was like,
nice.
please don't do this. And I'm like, I'm gonna fuck this up right now in the seats that no one asked for.
So real quick, which is your favorite of the brothers? This always tells a lot about a person's personality.
I'm a Nick girl, ride or die.
I would not have pinned you for that. You seem like who's the main one? The one that's
Joe?
not Nick?
Joe.
The one, yeah.
Yeah, Joe Jonas.
You seem like a Joe kind of person. I'm
That's what
definitely
people tell me, but I've always been a Nick girl at my heart.
I at least I didn't say something mean like I called you like a Kevin girl. That's like would you have got
Kevin
like
energy.
how like violently angry would
I
you?
would have been if you said that I was a Frankie Jonas, the bonus Jonas, I would have been fine. He's in an indie band himself and he's doing great. If you said Kevin, I'd be like, I'm offended.
Nick Jonas actually put out a kind of good indie record. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah.
Like 5-6 years ago. So props to him. I'm sorry, Brian. You were saying something and I went off into a million tangents.
No, it's totally fine. I'm actually surprised how often we talk about Jonas Brothers on this podcast.
Listen, I have a couch signed by them in my basement right now that my brother's using and won't put up in my office up here because he used it to hang with his friends.
I will also add that Courtney's in the chat saying they did Kevin dirty. Kevin is for the old folks.
Kevin has children.
He's got a
Okay.
TV show. He got a TV show. He'll be
Yeah,
fine.
he got that
Yeah.
money. He got that hard
Yeah.
entertainment news money. He's
Oh
doing
yeah.
So back to your music. Sorry. Yeah. So the 2 videos were shot with Alex Zarek from Chicago,
Yes.
who I met awkwardly at a show because I've watched a lot of his music videos because I always think they're really good, and he's worked with a bunch of my friends. And then I'm like, "Hey, you're Alex, right?" He's like, "Yeah, what's up?" I'm like, I'm Brian." He's like, "Oh, cool, man." I'm like, "I don't know what the fuck I'm talking to like that." And then we ended up talking for a while, and he's like, "Yeah, if you ever want to like hang out on a shoot, like let me know." Like, he's working with a couple of my friends again. So it's like, "Oh, these videos like shot by him. Let me check them out." And I was like, "Yeah, this is fucking awesome." So I don't know if you want to talk about like shooting those videos, and I've never seen like 2 videos like waiting to get dropped. So like I'm always just like, "It's done. Put it on YouTube. Go."
Something about Alex is that he's a total memer and we're a memer band. So like it is like gasoline in a match when we get together. It's just perfect.
Yeah, it really is. Working with Alex is like the most fun, seamless interactions. Like he's just so much fun to work with. And it's pretty cool to shoot a music video and shit post at the same time. And in the Gray Matter music video, for the first like 2 hours of the shoot, he kept asking, he's like, "All right, who's going to go get beer?" and we're in Pennsylvania in Erie, so it's kind of hard to get beer. Like you have to go and find a liquor store.
Mm.
Good luck finding a liquor store in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, seriously. So I
in
leave.
Ohio.
Oh, go on, Mason.
I'm sorry. I just gotta say this, and I'll let you have the whole soapbox. In Ohio, you could literally buy liquor at a McDonald's. Like it is that easy to get liquor in Ohio. In Pennsylvania, it's not. You have to like get a license. All right.
Is it because of the Amish?
It might be. It might be.
It's like the Puritans or something. Like they passed different laws. I have seen a drive-through liquor store in Ohio, and was like, do I need anything?
Is that legal?
Right now?
Do they not have those there?
No, dude. No.
Oh, there's like 100 of them here.
They
Yeah,
can't
no.
even get legislation to pass for the last like 3 months just to have people do single like to go like alcoholic drinks, like not as like a package, but like as a single, like this is my one thing. Goodbye. Like they still won't even pass that here.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my, this is like part of our culture here. That's amazing. Wow. So like you guys have like a billion cool things. You have the Bean, and we have drive-through, liquor stores.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a fair trade-off.
I'll trade you the Bean, dude. I'll give you the Bean.
Yeah, I'll trade you the Bean.
We want that. We're taking the Bean, whether you like it or not.
In its place, you can just drive through and get.
It's gonna be a new Facebook event. It's like help the safest legislation take the bean back to Ohio.
Did you guys see when Heart Attack Man was selling the orange beanie?
Yes,
on eBay. Went up to like,
yeah.
That's gonna be our thing. We're gonna steal the Bean. Mike, I'm sorry. You go ahead with your thing.
Dude, I don't even remember, but I love working with Alex.
We for 2 hours we were either figuring out who was gonna get beer or what Kennedy was going to wear, because Kennedy walked up to the shoot wearing these grass-stained white shoes, and Alex was like, "No, you're not wearing them. Not wearing them." Made Joey switch shoes with him because Joey was behind the drum kit, and then we were like basically arguing about that for at least 2 hours. But Alex is a great dude, man. He comes out to Erie, Pennsylvania, like every couple months and shoots music videos with a bunch of people, especially like bands on our management. And literally every time he comes out, we're like, we can't afford it. We're not going to shoot a video. And then we end up shooting a damn video. So
he's just too good to pass up. That's the problem. Is like he is like a pretty prolific name in this scene. So like working with him is not only is it fun, but it's also like, holy shit, we get to do something with this guy who's like actually name for himself.
Yeah, because I could show anybody the Pushing Daisies video by Belmont and be like, yo, bro, my band shot with the
same guy.
Yeah. And then everyone's going to be like, oh, bro, who cares? But regardless, I get the brag.
Yeah.
So, no, he's a great dude. And I honestly, for the quality of work he does and everything, I mean, he's very cost efficient.
Yeah, I think we don't pay him enough, honestly.
Yeah, we honestly probably don't pay him enough. But he's really good at like if you give him a certain style you want the video to be, like he knows how to do it really well. Mm-hmm. Like how like a lot of bands in our scene have those like, it's a desaturated video with fog and like it's just got that look. I mean, he can produce that look like that. I mean, he just knows how to do that down to a T. And he knows how to do like a bunch of things where it's just like, I can't believe he's so good at different aspects of doing these videos. Like he can do so many different styles of videos. It's ridiculous.
It's awesome. I'll tell him that when I finally hit him, because it's like, yeah, hit me up if you ever want to come on a shoot. And it's like, well, I don't know if we're going to be doing that anytime soon. So I haven't talked to him since that specific time. But yeah, I'll at least let him know that you guys had nice things to say on our podcast. Maybe we'll interview him at some point.
Ooh, yeah, there we go. He better shout us out.
Yeah.
He better.
Is it? You mentioned that he shoots out in that in the Erie area a lot. That's a really hard 2 words to say right next to each other. Erie area. Is it like? I mean, management wise, because I don't know a lot of bands that have management that aren't like just massive fucking touring the entire United States and all that. Yeah, agencies.
So are you saying we're a disappointment because we have management? We're not massive.
No, I'm saying you guys are doing the right thing where you're more you're more focused on getting management and getting connected to a lot of things. Because a label is just going to do a lot of that for you, but you owe them money. And management is like, we are working with you to give you give you the access to these things so that we can all make money together, or at the very least, like, you know that you're going to get like what you are paying for.
Yeah, we don't feel like we're chained down in debt. I guess like the story of all that was like we put out a song called Runaway in like late 2018. And to be blunt, like, I mean, we, you know, you could ask Mike the same thing. We thought this song was going to be much bigger than it was. And, you know, it didn't fare very well. And we were like, okay, this is the last straw. Like, we need to take a jump because the universe just isn't going to fix things for us, you know?
Yeah, so, we really thought like songs were just going to organically take off. We're like, all right, we're going to put this up and then tomorrow it'll have 1 million views.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, pretty much like we were like, oh, like this is a fantastic song and has to blow up. But like, you know, obviously the industry doesn't work like that. You know, sometimes it's hard not to think that way because you're so consumed by how much you love your art. You know what I mean? But we hit that final straw. We were like, we have to get management and everything. We started writing this song, all these songs for The Space Between Words that comes out in August. And we were like, there's no way we can't have a proper release for all this stuff. And we had never done press, PR, any of that before this. So, you know, we just needed somebody to guide us through, like, you know, doing this stuff. A lot of people will say like, hey, try to do everything yourself, which totally, if you can do it yourself efficiently, go for it. That's what I would say. But we did not have that ability, and we really needed all the resources that came with signing on the management.
Yeah, because we pretty much went into everything completely blind. So like I can't even imagine what we would be doing right now if we didn't have management.
You should see some of the emails I sent like 2 years ago. Like, this is ridiculous. I remember I won't say who, but we sent an email out to like a booking agency that was like kind of reputable. And we were like, hey, can you have this band come for like a one stop?
Oh my God.
And we were like, we just didn't realize how insane that was when we said that. And like now I'm like, I would never in a million years say that.
No, we definitely agree on the management. We were talking about like, you know, press and everything because I can do that because that's what I usually do. But I'm like, I feel like an asshole being like, here's a press release for my podcast that you can get a hold of me for, that I took quotes from one other person and myself. Like, it just seems, one, it feels egotistical. Two, it's also like, well, there's no way that I can handle all that plus everything else I'm doing. And then he'd be like, hey, Brian, I also need you to do this.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, what?
You need to embrace the egotism. Like, you need to just basically become like Franz and just like,
God.
it just like that complex just consume you.
I don't know if I can, would, should do that. I mean, yeah, I think that it is like, as a band, and back to the question you asked before about like in a market where there are so many bands, is like, if you're coming into an email like, hey, I'm the singer of this band, or hey, I am a member of this band, like whatever it is, venues are going to go like, cool, can you sell tickets? Or like, everybody's going to look at you like, like, who are you? Like, why are you emailing me? And I think that people don't realize that when it is so saturated, like you can use that additional voice to just sort of put you just one tick above the where everybody else is. I think podcasts are weird because it's like, hey, we're an independent podcast, and people are like, oh yeah, I also have a Mac laptop and GarageBand, and it's like, like, no, we actually work hard. Like, fuck.
What I like to throw in just to be that person, because I've encountered a lot of people that are like, well, I hire somebody to edit my podcast, and then I also realize I'm like, that's the game I should really be getting into, first of all. But second of all, I was like, well, I kind of went to school and I know how to edit this up and down, and I have awards for this, so I'm just saying,
yeah,
who has the more reputability behind being a podcaster
now? So like, she basically was just flexing there, like, who's really got the power here.
Yeah.
No, we're an equal partnership. But
Yeah,
when
like-
we go when we talk to other people, we'll flex and be
Like-
like, okay, but you have this podcast. But here's
Like-
the thing.
Like Brian is basically like King Joffrey, and like you're basically like Tywin Lannister in the background, being like, yeah, like
A little bit.
We know who's really running the show.
Lizzie does not get that reference, but I get it, and it is apt.
I was gonna
It
say
is correct.
I don't have time to watch
It's like,
TV too much.
So Lizzie keeps mentioning at some of our podcasts, like, oh yeah, I have to finish this project for my podcasting class. And I'm like, if you're taking a podcasting class, why isn't this podcast better?
It
and
is.
I'm like-
It's just it's supposed to be long form, and you don't
Yeah.
want to have it like
I know.
structured like
I'm
that.
more-
That's the thing.
It's more like, hey, I'd like to do all of this good stuff for our podcast. And I'm just like, hold on, I have to press a bunch of buttons and fuck it up.
It's like this is how you do NPR style podcasts, which I really love doing. He's like, "Oh, we're not gonna do that right now, ma'am."
It's like, I can't shit
Just
talk
there.
on a long form news podcast.
Well,
I
here's the
can't-
thing: you kind of can.
The news is this, and my thoughts on that are fuck it. There are too many bands in Chicago.
Oh man, you're gonna start like a battle with this.
Yeah.
We're gonna get angry tweets, and I'm gonna have to deal with them.
You're gonna have like every local band like going down your throat.
Oh God, 100%. So we're at about like an hour 20 right now. So I want to make sure that we get you get all your plugs out where people can find you, get those Spotify plays up, unlock your stuff on what's that fan site?
OnlyFans?
No, not advertise your OnlyFans, whatever you need in this time.
Whatever we need in this. time.
Wherever anybody can find you on the internet to support you, to listen to your music. I don't know if those videos are up, but if they are, if they can go and watch those.
So the only video we have up right now is Mountain Eyes off of the new record, but we do have a video for a single from like 2 years ago, Lockwood, that's up too. And we have all our music up on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you stream music, YouTube, any of that stuff like that. We have another song and video coming out next month, and then an EP coming out in August, and more stuff after that. I mean, we're constantly working. You could find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anything like that. Our handle is @safestledgeOH. Mike, is there anything we need to plug? Listen to Mountain Eyes on Spotify.
Yeah, listen to Mountain Eyes on Spotify. Put in playlist. Show it to your grandma, your grandpa, the band, bro.
Please do not put it in an endless loop cycle. That does a lot of harm.
Blacklist their Spotify account.
Oh wow.
Yeah, don't do that. Gray Matter. Our next single comes out next month. Do we want to do any shout outs, Mike? Do we want to do any shout outs?
Shout out to the rest of the band that couldn't be here.
That's right. Shout out Reese specifically. Our lead guitar player, Reese, we do this thing where we just absolutely torture him and we compare him to a bunch of people he really doesn't like. Since he has long hair, we just say he looks like every guy with long hair that he can't stand. Like we say, so he like produces music too. So do you guys know who Glenn from Spectre Sound Studios is on YouTube?
No.
So he's this guy on YouTube. Mike hates him too. Honestly, I don't really like him either. But he's this guy on YouTube that he's like a recording YouTuber, and his like whole gag is like how much he shits on bass players, and like so we always make jokes about how Reese is like. Yeah, Reese looks like him and everything. He gets so mad, or we'll say he looks like Rick Rubin, or just literally anybody with long hair he doesn't like will say he looks like him. So shout out Reese for all the shit he takes from us.
Yeah, he played My Sharona for us the other day.
Oh yeah, we made him learn My Sharona. What did I say to him? I was like, play My Sharona, but as Smoke on the Water.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I
was like, play the notes to My Sharona, but play it as Smoke on the Water.
Dun, dun.
I think
I can't even think of how to do that.
I don't know, But yeah, shout out him. Shout out our management, the Andromeda Agency. Shout out the Standby. Shout out Carpool and their new record. Shout out Cliff Diver from Oklahoma. You got anybody to shout out, Mike?
No, you got all my shout outs. I was just going to shout out Carpool.
Shout out Dan Calderon specifically.
Everybody else too, but him specifically.
I honestly, I can't think of anything else. I don't know. We have a new single coming out next month. It's called Gray Matter. The music video is going to premiere on BVTV Music on YouTube. It's a really great video. Alex Zarek shot it himself. We used some really cool tricks in it. So it's really cool. He specifically is very hyped about it. So we're excited for that. You can watch Mountain Eyes' music video on BBTV Music on YouTube right now and stream the single on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever the hell else. And I don't know, chill. We're trying to do some stuff. We I don't know, follow us, watch our memes, I guess. We're going to be very active these next couple months, and hopefully next year we go back to touring.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I'd see tours get rescheduled for January now, where they were before were scheduled from November. So I think that's the sign there.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
I know. I have a show that got rescheduled, the Hot Mulligan tour. They're like, oh, we're coming December 6th. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work.
We'll see.
But let's maybe hope so.
Yeah.
On a side note, that band has like gone really big.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really cool to see because I think I knew about them like last year or the year before. And like seeing how gigantic they got big like over the past like couple months is really awesome.
I saw them play like a local, it's called Evolution Music out here. It's literally like a music store, and they just had a stage in the back, and it was with Belmont as the headliner. And there was maybe like 70 kids in this room, maybe not even. And like they had like a little bit of an elevated stage, and everyone was just like popping the fuck off and going off. This is 2017, because that's when I graduated from college. And I was like, this band is so fucking good, because I didn't like really listen to them too much before I went there. I was mainly there for Belmont. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, spicy take. I think they're better than Belmont.
Ooh, big spicy take right there. One question I have for you guys is like, what are you bumping right now? What's your record of choice right now? Mine is, it's a band called Locket. I have no idea what the record.
Oh, I've heard of Locket. I like them. I've heard a couple of their singles, and I was like, "Ooh, this band hits."
Yeah, they're on Fearless Records. They're fantastic. That's what's my big thing right now. How about you guys?
I have to look. I'll be honest. Like
I'm gonna have to pop this up real quick here.
Are you a podcast only guy, Brian? Is that it?
The thing right now is like if I'm listening to music, it's not just me that's listening to the music. Like it's going out to everybody else in my apartment. So I try to be like kind of mindful about what music so that everybody can enjoy it.
I found out about this.
So you're only playing Africa by Toto?
Yeah, pretty much every day.
I found this older band called Nightmare Review. They sound like a modern, like The Cure to me.
Oh, cool.
I've been really bumping them.
Punk?
I just saw them. They came in like I never listened to playlist mix. I'm one of those people who only listen to like albums straight through, and I don't like playlist mix at all.
You're very old school. School.
So I found it randomly because I was going through. I also really like the Sonderbombs too.
Sonderbombs, they're from Cleveland. Kevin Cappy, we know him. He's in the Grievance Club and is also in the Sonderbombs.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I've been bumping them, and then somebody else that we were interviewing, my friend Alex from Bad Planning, about like last month or two ago. He reminded me he's the only other person I know who likes Crucial Dudes, and I was like, I love Crucial Dudes, so I've been listening to them, like throwing it back big time.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I realized too? I forgot Rise Against is from Chicago too. You guys have so many fans there.
I think I've seen Rise Against probably like 8 or 9 times to be 100%. I saw them at their House of Band shows, like 200 fucking people.
Ooh.
It was insane. I got a press pass, and then I got it like the day before it was supposed to happen. I called like literally 16 of like my friends, and I was like, "Who can go with me?" And I got to literally like the very last person on my list. They're like, "Okay, I'll go."
I saw them in 2011, and that was one of the best shows I've ever been to. They were fantastic.
They're very much like
every time we see them.
Yeah, they're just like that band that's like on the gig, and you're like, oh yeah, I'll go to that.
Yeah.
Like,
Mike,
You're like,
what's,
I know I'm gonna at least like this band if I don't like any other band.
yeah.
Mike, what's your current right now? Is it Origami Angel or Glass Beach?
Ooh.
It's actually neither. It's still the new Carly Rae Jepsen album.
He loves
Ooh.
Carly Rae Jepsen.
Hey,
Good.
he's not wrong.
Yeah.
He loves
good
it. It's
artist.
good. It's good stuff. I'm not gonna dog on Mike for that. It's really good.
Yeah.
And I don't
love
know
to
what
say
it
your
is.
Gammy Gang too. I love Origami Angel.
Yeah, Origami Angel is really dope.
I actually only found out about them because of Carpool, because I would listen to their last record they put out, and then it would go to the radio, and then Origami Angel would come out. I'm like, yo, this band rips.
Bro, isn't Idaho so good?
Yeah, it's so good.
So good, man. They're so good. Brian, what have you decided on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm usually going between like, so every Friday on Twitch I do like a DJ set. So I've been listening to like a lot of like older bands. Like today I listened to The Used, Bring Me the Horizon I listened to a lot. And then I had like a kick like a couple weeks ago for 30 Seconds to Mars. And I was like, that's in like my most recently played.
Alright.
I don't know. I get down with 30 Seconds to Mars quite a bit, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything. I don't know. I don't. All of these bands that you're saying to me could be anything. They could be a t-shirt company. They could be the name of a magazine. They could be a band. They could be like 100 different things. And just like, oh yeah, these words combined sound like something that exists.
We when you play the Spotify game like as hard as we do, like just because it's like the only way to succeed in the industry now. I feel like we like just are like so up to date with every band now because like we're just like, you know, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
So wow. I
promise I'll listen to better music, but the next time I get the same question.
I've been trying to get him on the new music train actively for the last.
What have you been trying to throw on him? Like, have you been easing him into stuff, or have you been?
I've just been like, oh, here's stuff that's like.
You've been throwing
new emo. Like,
no, you're just like here, 100 gex now, 100 gex now.
It's like, oh my god! It turns out I hate music. You try to get me to like the new All Time Low record, which
because it hits.
Yeah, I've listened to a couple songs now. It's good. I'm not a huge All Time Low fan. Is the thing. Like I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's a band.
I think Mike likes that band.
I was a classic All Time Low fan.
He was.
When I was in like fucking 9th grade, and I was like, bro, All Time Low is gonna change everything. And that's when I started listening to Forever Kids.
Oh, Forever the Sickest Kids. Maybe the worst live band ever.
I used to love this band so much, and then I saw them at Warped Tour, and I was like, oh, never mind. Haha, that was funny.
This was a fun game. I guess we're just gonna go out the door.
I think the worst live band I ever saw was Asking Alexandria.
That's a fair assessment.
Like no cap, they were like really like wow. It was like wow, I can't believe they did that.
Well, they just dropped like a new album, I think like this year, and everyone was like, "Why did you do that?" Because it straight sucked apparently, which I believe. And they were like, "Oh, what if we put out another album in the summer?" And everyone's like, "Stop, please, let this die. No one's asking for anything you're putting out."
Man, they're living the dream. More power to them.
They feel like being British. They feel like a band that does not want to be British and wants to only appeal to Trump country. And I'm like, why? You have no stake in this. You do not vote in this country. So therefore you're just like, that's our audience. We will sell to them. And I'm like, what have you done? You used to just play like hardcore music with all of your black t-shirts in a warehouse that it was raining in for some reason. I don't know.
I think they saw the Volbeat crowd and we were like, we got to get that Volbeat money.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Which that Volbeat money, I don't know. That doesn't track to me, but apparently it's working.
So me and Mike say all the time that we just wanna do this for our career. But I don't know if I could play Volbeat. I don't know if I could do that. That's a little too far for me. I think at that point I would start to hate it. So
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be able to play like butt dad metal. There's way.
So if the world is dying to know, we will not sell out for that.
Good.
Good. I'm glad that you have your limitations.
Yes.
And everything's just placed down, and that's it.
Exactly.
Somehow we started on butt rock, and we are. I'll close out the podcast here, and we can keep chatting
With
for a
butt
little
rock.
bit. But yeah, we're closing out with butt rock too. So just both cheeks on both ends. Anyway, let me just cue up the music here and play it, and we'll just keep chatting on Twitch for Courtney and whoever else wants to come next week or whenever we're online. Mason, Mike, thank you for joining us on the Emo Social Club podcast this week.
Thank you for having us.
And from all of us here at the Emo Social Club podcast, I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie.
And goodbye.